Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So, welcome back everyone to our daily Gita classes. We're still covering the introduction. Before we start, let's pray for blessings. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshur-unmilitam yena Tasmai Shri-gurave namaha. Shri-chaitanya-manobhishtam Stapitam yena bhutale Swayam-rupa kadamayyam Dadati swapadadikam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so we are reading from the paragraph that starts with the words, the abode of Lord Krishna. Everyone got it? Prabhu, you can share with them. Page 19. Okay? So, the abode of Lord Shri Krishna is described in the Bhagavad Gita 15th chapter, 6th verse. Natad bhashate suryo nasha shanko na pavaka yad gatva na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. That supreme abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. This verse gives a description of that eternal sky. Of course, we have a material conception of the sky, and we think of it in relationship to the sun, moon, stars, and so on. But in this verse, the Lord states that in the eternal sky there is no need for the sun, nor for the moon, nor electricity or fire of any kind, because the spiritual sky is already illuminated by the Brahma Jyoti, the rays emanating from the Supreme Lord. We are trying with difficulty to reach other planets, but it is not difficult to understand the abode of the Supreme Lord. This abode is referred to as Goloka. In the Brahma Samhita, it is beautifully described. Goloko eva nivashati akhilatma bhuta. The Lord resides eternally in his abode Goloka. Yet he can be approached from this world, and to this end, the Lord comes to manifest his real form, Satchit Ananda Vigraha. When he manifests this form, there is no need for our imagining what he looks like. To discourage such imaginative speculation, he descends and exhibits himself as he is, as Shama Sundara. Unfortunately, the less intelligent deride him because he comes as one of us and plays with us as a human being. But because of this, we should not consider the Lord one of us. It is by his omnipotency that he presents himself in his real form before us and displays his past tense, which are replicas of those past tense found in his abode. Okay. So, this paragraph describes what the spiritual abode is like. Now, sitting here, we cannot imagine what that abode looks like. We have no experience of that. And so Krishna gives a slight hint in the Bhagavad Gita describing how his abode is like. So what does his abode need? Well, it doesn't need suns, moons, stars, fire, electricity, or any illuminating source, because those planets are self-illuminating, right? So this means that what we have experience of is that this world is a world full of darkness and it needs to be illuminated. Yes? But in the spiritual world, it is full of illumination. So you can take it as being symbolically, in the sense that the material world is full of ignorance, full of darkness. But in the spiritual world, everyone is in knowledge, everyone is illumined, everyone knows their constitutional position. And in this place, we do not know our constitutional position, we have not realized that fact. So it can be taken to be symbolically as well, that what is the difference between this world here and that world in the spiritual world. But we don't want to relegate it only to symbolically. This is actual fact. This is how it is actually like. Okay? That whatever we see in this world is in complete opposite of what is there in that world. Okay? So what he's trying to say is, here we find that there is temporariness. It is not permanent. So the opposite of that is that everything there is permanent. Over here we see that there is more suffering and not real pleasure. Over there it is eternal pleasure, real pleasure. And then what else is that? That is in this world, everything is not conscious. Everything is matter. It's material. It doesn't have matter. It doesn't have consciousness. While in that world, everything is conscious. It's very difficult to explain something that we have no concept of in our life. So that is why Krishna only gives a small indication of what his abode is like. And he relates it in a way of negation of what we know in this world. Because if he starts to give a positive description of what his world is like, we will not be able to relate to it. So the way he makes it relatable to us is by explaining that world in comparison with this world, but just negating the qualities of this world, so that we can get some idea as to what that spiritual world is like. Okay? So, if we want to fulfill our innermost desires, we will not be able to do it here. We will not be able to do it in the material world. We will only be able to do it in the spiritual world. And there is this very nice quote by a British author by the name of C.S. Lewis. And he says, "If I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world." Yeah, we try to become happy in this world, yet all our plans for happiness are eventually foiled. Eventually, they hit a snag and we feel frustration. And no matter how much we try, we will never ever be eternally happy here. So we have this desire to be eternally happy, but it is not going to be possible to fulfill it here in this material world. So as C.S. Lewis says, that if I find in myself a desire that nothing in this world can satisfy, the only logical and probable explanation is that I was made for another world. And that other world is the spiritual world. Right? Now, so because we know that the spiritual world is where we need to go, but we don't know much about it in a positive sense. We only know it in a negative sense. So to show that positiveness, what does Krishna do? He comes down on this planet and he does his leelas. He does his spiritual transcendental leelas, which give a sense of happiness. Just by contemplating on his activities, on his pastimes, we get a sense of how much bliss is there in the spiritual world. So that is what Krishna comes down to do. Yes, in the Gita it says that his primary reason for coming down is to establish the rules of religion and to annihilate the miscreants. Yes, but he is also trying to establish how sweet the relationships, how sweet the interactions are that he performs in this world, which are replicas of the activities that are done in the spiritual world. So, through those leelas, he is trying to attract our minds, he is trying to attract our consciousness so that we go towards him. Okay? So that we get some sort of conviction that no, we will get real happiness in the spiritual planets. And the second reason why he comes is that because we have no understanding of what that world is like, we can fall into the trap of imagining what it is like. So to engage us from imaginative speculation, he comes down as himself to present that this is what it is. You don't need to imagine what I am like or what the spiritual world is like. No, I am going to bring everything here to show you what it is like, so that we do not fall in the trap of imaginative speculation. He comes as himself out of his causeless mercy because he loves all of us. He wants all of us to go back to him. He doesn't want us to waste our lives and life after life in this material world. He wants all of us to go back to him. And so he comes in his full glory to show his transcendental position and to attract our minds and consciousness. Yeah. But unfortunately, there are always going to be some class of people who, even when Krishna comes down as himself, they relegate him to be just like them. They cannot perceive the elevated position of Krishna, and they start to compare him to be like an ordinary human being just because he acts like an ordinary human being. So a question might come is, why does even Krishna act like an ordinary human being? Well, he acts like an ordinary human being so as to relate to us at the most intimate way. What if he comes and he shows his godhood? Of course, he does show some extraordinary activities to establish the fact that he is God. But he doesn't want us to only focus on that aspect of his being. Because that aspect will only create awe and reverence. And that is of an inferior quality than the relationship that he really wants, which is more intimate, which is more filled with higher stages of love. Remember, we said in the beginning of the introduction that the 5 types of relationship one entity can have with Krishna. And the higher ones are of personal relationships like Madhurya, Vatsalya, Sakha, and Dasya. Yes? At least in these ones, it's more of an intimate relationship. The fifth one is just Shantaras, where there's only awe and reverence. That he can do in any of those other expansions or planetary expansions. But when he comes as himself, as Krishna, he wants to show us the higher levels of relationships that we can have with him. And that is even more relishable. That is even more relishable. And so for that he has to come in a human form so that he can relate to us in the most intimate way. Right? Because it's only within species we can have close relationships. Most of the times, generally, the most close relationships happen within species. So when Krishna comes in a human form, he is trying to just create that closeness with us. He wants to attract us to go to him and to love him. It's very easy to love God when he comes in a human form. Right? Can you go love Nrsimhadev? You will, you will be scared. It's very difficult to establish a loving relationship like that with a half lion and half man form. So in that sense, it's Krishna comes in a human form. Lord Ram came in a human form so as to facilitate that intimate connection. Okay? Moving on. Okay. In the effulgent rays of the spiritual sky, there are innumerable planets floating. The Brahma Jyoti emanates from the supreme abode, Krishna Loka, and the Anandamaya, Chinmaya planets, which are not material, float in those rays. The Lord says, Na tad bhashate suryo, na shashamka, na pavaka, yat gatva na nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. One who can approach that spiritual sky is not required to descend again to the material sky. In the material sky, even if we approach the highest planet, Brahmalok, what to speak of the moon, we will find the same conditions of life, namely birth, death, disease, and old age. No planet in this material universe is free from these 4 principles of material existence. So it's a very important point I want to get out here, is that Krishna says in the shlok, Yad gatva na nivartante, that once you get to the spiritual planets, you will not come back to this material world. So to illustrate this point, I'm going to share with you a story. There's a story of a set of twins in a mother's womb. Now, twin A is saying to twin B, do you think that there is life after delivery? And so now twin B replies to twin A, of course there is life after delivery. It's obvious, isn't it? Twin A says, no, you're living in a dream world. This is where we live, and this is everything. And twin B says, no, where we are living right now is just the preparation. There is another place where it is full of light. So twin A says, no, you're crazy. Full of light? Who told you all these lies? Twin B says, no, no. There's another place where there is more light. There are more people, more opportunities. There's another place where there is more fun. And twin A says, don't you know that we are being fed by an umbilical cord? Once this cord is cut, game over. How are we going to eat? How are we going to survive? And twin B says, no, no. There is another body that we will get. One which does not require the umbilical cords, where we can go around freely. And then twin A says, but then why has nobody come back to show us? And so twin B says, no, no. Once you go out, you never come back. Yad gatva na nivartante. You don't come back into the womb. So twin A says, oh, you're living in a crazy world. You think that there is someone there who is nourishing us? Yeah, we are only being nourished by the umbilical cord. And twin B says, no, we have a mother. The mother is all around us. In fact, we are inside the mother and she is nourishing us. We can't see her right now, but one day we will see her and we will be able to smile and laugh and joke and interact and have a relationship with her. Now the question is, who is right? Twin A or twin B? Yeah? Isn't this our position right now? Aren't we like the twin A, not having faith like the twin B? We are not having faith in the mother who is nourishing us. Krishna, who is nourishing us, even though he is in the spiritual world and we are in the material world, but he is all around us in the material world. He is nourishing us here. Right? This is a perfect story that illustrates how once you go there, everything is so much greater that you will not even want to go back into the womb. Right? So this story is very, very interesting and very, very informative as well. Yeah? Going forward, it says that the living entities are traveling from one planet to another, but it is not that we can go to any planet we like merely by a mechanical arrangement. If we desire to go to other planets, there is a process for going there. This is also mentioned. Yanti deva vrata devan pitrin, yanti pitra vrataha. No mechanical arrangement is necessary if we want interplanetary travel. The Gita instructs, yanti deva vrata devan. The moon, the sun and the higher planets are called Svarga Loka. There are three different statuses of planets, higher, middle and lower planetary systems. The Earth belongs to the middle planetary system. Bhagavad Gita informs us how to travel to the higher planetary systems, Deva Loka, with a very simple formula. Yanti Deva Vrata Devan. One need only worship the particular demigod of that particular planet and in that way go to the moon, the sun, or any of the higher planetary systems. Right? So, this is a very subtle sense of how we can do interplanetary system travel. You know, when Prabhupada was around in the 1960s, late 1960s, there was a great attempt by the Americans to land onto the moon. And Prabhupada said that it's not possible. It's not possible because according to Vedic cosmology, the moon is very far beyond our reach. And he said that that is not even the way to get there. Mechanically, it is impossible to get there. And even if you do get there, then what are you going to do there? Because your body is of an earthly element. It is not going to survive on the moon. So, he says that if you want to live in the moon or the sun or the higher planetary planets, you need to develop your consciousness such that at the end of your life, you can transfer to those planets and transfer yourself to be capable of going there. For example, if we want to change our nationality, we must show that country that we wish to become loyal citizens of that country and adopt the values and way of life of that country. It's very simple. This is a very simple practical example. That you cannot just demand that I want to become a citizen of this country. No, you have to show and complete certain checkpoints or certain requirements before you can become a citizen of that country. Huh? Just like if you want to get British citizenship, you have to take an oath, and an oath that tells you that you are adopting to the British way of life with British values, right? So, if that is possible within the Earth planet, between one country to another, it is also the same principle that is being applied in interplanetary rules, in a sense. So, if we want to go to the higher planets, we need to worship the Devas. And we see in the Gita that worshipping of Devas is considered in the mode of goodness. So if you want to go to the higher planetary systems, you need to develop the mood or consciousness that is suitable for those planets. And in those planets, the mode of goodness is more dominant. Yeah? Now, as they say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Then if you don't do as the Romans do, then you'll stick out like a sore thumb, right? You'll not fit in properly there. So this is like a general rule. It comes in the 8th chapter, text number 5, where Krishna says a general rule of travel, of going to your next destination. What is it based on? It is based on the consciousness that you develop in your lifetime. So if you want to go to the higher planets, you need to cultivate a higher sort of consciousness, which is under the mode of goodness. If you want to remain on the earthly planet, then what will happen is mode of passion will be more dominant in you. And if you want to go down to the hellish planets, you just have to let yourself loose in the mode of ignorance. Okay? So that is what the process is given in the Gita, that if you want to travel to other planets, it's just a matter of adjusting your consciousness according to the modes. Right? But is this all necessary? Is it supposed to be done? So that's why we come to the next paragraph. Yet Bhagavad Gita does not advise us to go to any of the planets in this material world. Because even if we go to Brahmaloka, the highest planet, through some sort of mechanical contrivance, by maybe traveling for 40,000 years, and who would live that long, we will still find the material inconveniences of birth, death, disease and old age. But one who wants to approach the supreme planet, Krishna Loka, or any other planet within the spiritual sky, will not meet with these material inconveniences. Amongst all of the planets in the spiritual sky, there is one supreme planet called Goloka Vrindavan. And the original planet is the abode of the original person Godhead Sri Krishna. All of this information is given in Bhagavad Gita, and we are given through its instructions information how to leave the material world and begin a truly blissful life in the spiritual sky. So what is the main point that is being brought out here is that we might be thinking of going from planet Earth to higher planetary systems or other planets, but it is a huge waste of time, because Krishna says that no matter where you go in this material world, it is going to be plagued by the 4 fundamental problems of life, which is known by the acronym BODY: birth, old age, disease, and Yamraj, meaning death. So as long as you are in this material world, you are going to be embodied. And when you're embodied, you are going to face the four fundamental problems of the body: birth, old age, disease, and death. So it is not a very, very intelligent thing to try and go towards the higher planetary, material planetary systems. It's better that you make a solution to everything and transfer yourself to the spiritual world. And it is very reassuring to know that the best way and the best atmosphere from which to transport ourselves to the spiritual sky is from the earthly planet. Why is this the case? Why is it that it is easier to go to the spiritual planets from the middle planetary system like the earth rather than the higher planetary systems like Brahmalok, Janalok, Tapalok? Why? It's because in the middle planetary system there is an equal weight of happiness and distress. When people are only in distress, when there is more distress, then people just want relief, and just some elevation of that suffering is taken to be the highest happiness. But when, on the other hand, if it is only pleasure, then your mind is only focusing on the pleasure. It cannot focus on the higher reality. So only when there is a balance of happiness and distress in equal measure, at that point we can clearly see that there is the truth as it is. There's an equilibrium. You are not going to be too much brought down by the misery, nor are you going to be too much elevated by the happiness. You will have the experience in equal measure, and this experience will make you see the temporality of the world, and it will also make you question the most existential questions of life in a much more advanced or faster way. So that is why the earthly planets are really, really well placed to make direct spiritual progress. Okay? Even it is said that the devatas, the demigods, they are dying to take birth on the earthly planets because they realize that it is much easier to attain the spiritual sky from the earthly planets. Okay? So I think we will stop here. If anyone has any questions or any comments, okay? श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।